Okay, so this is module 3, and this is the first one, which is overcoming obstacles.
My head grew heavy. My sight grew dim. And later on, this could be heaven, this could be hell, betwixt and between. The term anthropologists have coined to describe this state is liminality. It's from the Greek limen, on the margin. Liminality is like being in the cracks between two worlds. What happens within liminality is a rather kaleidoscopic searching for answers, trying on different identities, movement among different groups. Liminality usually takes place, the anthropologists say, in rites of passage, when people move from one status to another. Liminality is seen as anti-structure. So it's a broad and general concept. I'm going to try to talk about it in different ways. One moves from the structure of home and the stability of place in home. And then one moves away and travels to college, and college is liminal. Things change all this time. Who are your friends? Where do you live? What's your major? Things are up in the air, all right? But this is not just a story about going away to college, but it's a story about times when things are just blurry and up in the air. It happens in all sorts of instances. You go to sleep at night and you dream. Where did you go? What happened? What was that all about? Things were turned upside down. And then you come back out of it and you wake up and it's, well, that was just a dream. But something happened there. Things were blurry. Things were confused. All right? It's even as mundane as right now, this lecture. This is structure. You're listening. You're taking notes. And then you passage out of this classroom, and it's which way do I go? What am I doing next? Check my phone. Everything's kind of up in the air. And then you go into another class, and structure reemerges. You also hear it on the radio stations, okay? We've got, how many days of the week we got left before we get to the weekend? And the weekend has this expansive quality to it, in which the structure leaves us. You sleep in, different things happened, everything's kind of up and down, betwixt and between, all right? Summer vacation has the same sort of quality to it. So structure, anti-structure, structure. Liminality most often formally occurs, the anthropologists tell us, within what I was talking about as rites of passage. For example, one is single, and one, say, seeks to be with a partner. And so one, say, seeks marriage. And there is this in-between period, courtship, in which, what's going to happen here? Who is this person? Who am I? Your identity becomes blurred. Things turned upside down. You're uncertain what's going to happen next, okay? And let's say you're seeking a rather traditional outcome here. You're going from single and you want to get married. And maybe it's not this person, and then it goes back into a blurriness, and maybe it's another person. And you try it out, and you go through different phases. And finally, at the end, perhaps, you get married. And when you get married, it's a sense, okay, now we're married. And now we know what this looks like, okay? And now we're going to figure it out, and you live in a place, and you make money, and you have children, and you're in structure again. But in between that courtship period, that was liminal. Things were upside down. Things were unknown. The point I'm trying to make here is this is part of the human experience, liminality, things being like this. We're going to talk about how Siddhartha is experiencing this, but it's also true of what's going on in college life, things being upside down, uncertain. Okay. So let's look at the plot summary again. What's going on in the book, okay? You'll remember at the end of the chapter on Brahman's son, Siddhartha has decided to follow the path of the Samanas. He's leaving home. Siddhartha's father, once again, doesn't want him to join the Samanas, but he can't dissuade him. He has to do this.
And I have
he has to bring forth
your flashcards
that which is within him. Govinda, his good friend, also wants to go with him. And so they go together on this quest to find a new and unknown life. Siddhartha adjusts quickly to the ways of the samanas. He learns how to free himself from the traditional trappings of life.
My nickname.
So he loses his desire, it seems, for property, for clothing, for sexuality, and all sustenance, except that's what he basically needs to live. His goal is to find enlightenment by eliminating the self, and he successfully renounces the pleasures of the world. Sunburned and half-starved, Siddhartha soon ceases to resemble the boy he used to be. Govinda is quick to praise the samanas and notes the considerable moral and spiritual improvements they both have achieved since joining. But Siddhartha, however, is still dissatisfied. He is in liminality. He thinks he has crossed over to another shore, but this may not be the case. What happens in the book is the path of self-denial does not provide a permanent solution to him. Siddhartha points out that the oldest samanas have lived that life for many years, but have yet to attain true spiritual enlightenment. Siddhartha still has doubts. He has noted a contradiction in Gautama, the Buddha, when he goes to see the Buddha's teachings. Now, you understand here, this is a book about the life of the Buddha, but it's a novel. And Siddhartha encounters the Buddha here, and it's kind of on two levels, all right? So Siddhartha is the Buddha, but in this novelistic interpretation, he encounters the Buddha. You just got to bear with Hesse in his telling of the story. But the Buddha is another stop along this path of liminality. Siddhartha questions the Buddha and asks, how can we embrace the unity of all things? How do we do this? How do we really overcome the physical world? Is this possible? And Siddhartha eventually realizes in the book that Buddhism will not give him the answers he needs. Sadly, he leaves Govinda behind and continues on his search for the meaning of life, the achievement of which he feels will not be dependent upon religious instruction. Siddhartha and the other samanas begin to hear about, So gradually he realizes that the way of the Buddha may not be his way. So what we have here is a movement away from home and a trying out of different answers, of asceticism, of the teaching of the Buddha. And it has a feeling of liminality. Now, in terms of your own experience, college and liminality, if you ask graduating seniors, or if you ask yourself when you're a senior, or if I ask you, to characterize your first year of college, you often hear people say this: it was crazy. You get this a lot. I'm not lying, okay? There's something crazy. Now, crazy doesn't tell us a whole lot, but it tells us something, okay? If we interrogate this word crazy, I would think that at least we would find that the first year of college involves a lot of adaptation to a new environment. And not very much of this has to do with academics. Part of it does.
So the adaptation...
And I suspect that you now, and certainly in your first semester, and probably continues, are having a taste of this. Especially if you're living in a dormitory or in some living situation where a rather random assortment of people have been thrown together and are trying to sort themselves out. What I remember most about my own first year of college was the simple and obvious issue of talk, of a particular kind of talk. It was sometimes with one other person, sometimes with 3 or 4, almost never with many more. We were new to our setting. We were new to each other. We were so many, so gifted, and so vulnerable. We were new to the freedoms of college. We were trying to figure out how we were to live. You don't have to go to class, really. Maybe you don't have to. That's a new idea. When are you going to go to bed? Mom's not here. When are you going to wake up? I've had a number of students. I've given exams. When I give an exam about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I always have a couple of students in a big class who slept in, which to me is interesting. The sleeping patterns are different. Things have changed, okay? And where do you eat? What kind of food do you eat, okay? There's this peculiar mix of lenience and discipline that our studies ask of us or even require of us. But we have to figure out the pattern. How you doing with your pattern, guys? When do you go to sleep? When do you wake up? Where do you eat? You got something figured out? You got routine? How's that going? Particularly in the fall, it's really hard to find routine. And maybe even now. But this is the nature of the adaptation. Things are kind of up in the air, betwixt and between, kind of liminal. Okay? For me, the talking was the big thing. I would spend hours talking with most people, in my dormitory, just hanging out, okay? And most of the talk was about me or about them, okay? It's talking about everything, politics, novels, sex, science, history, you name it. And it was often had to do with, what am I going to do with my life, okay? In some respect or another, trying out different thoughts. Now, the ideas that I came up with in that first year were nothing to write down for future generations, okay? But I was enthralled at the time, and they were too, at just talking and learning about each other and learning about where we were. Now this unleashing of yearnings, their articulation and exploration was for many of us breathtaking, liberating. So it's going to be pharmacy, right? So let's talk about that. What's going to happen to you? How do you imagine your future?
I wonder if some are trying to convince themselves too.
So there's this exaggeration, there's this trying out, there's this trying to figure it out. Okay, a student friend of mine tells me that the good dorms are the ones with the best room, not the ones with the best rooms, but the ones with the best hallway culture. With something going on outside the doorway at any given moment of the day or night. A good dormitory is quiet enough for study, yet like a good city street, active with people and conversation until late at night. And it's kind of like the college itself. The dormitories bring students together from different worlds, from backgrounds that differ and occasionally clash. And this to me is part of what the liminal experience is all about.
I wonder if you'd be friends with these
Now,
same people.
to be sure, staying up late at night with a random assortment of newfound friends is not quite analogous to the ascetic practices and disillusionments of Siddhartha. But here's the point. Liminality in college, liminality for Siddhartha, is crucial to our efforts to find ourselves in this new and mysterious environment in which we are living. Colleges have certain fixed places of liminality where anything can happen. Where is that here?
So liminality is
over there by the big potato. Okay, so that's a possibility. I think it's crossing the Plaza of the Americas. You go across the Plaza of the Americas and you just don't know what's going to happen to you. Okay? I just did it. Did you guys just do it? People are selling you stuff. Okay? A lot of different things are going on. The Hare Krishnas are selling food. Who are those people anyway, those Hare Krishnas? You want to take a little walk on the wild side? Get yourself a little plate of Hare Krishna food and sit down and talk to one of those people. A bunch of them were college students. Okay? That's where they wound up. How did that happen? Okay? They were in the dormitory. Now they're out selling Hare Krishna food. This could be heaven. This could be hell. We don't know. Okay? You will often find, pay attention in the Plaza of the Americas, you'll often see a backpacker. A guy with a backpack, often with a beat-up dog, okay? Probably with a bandana around its neck, okay? And he's sitting there. And you go up and you talk to him. We don't do this, but if you did, where are you from? I don't know. I just came from Alabama. I'm coming up from Miami. Where are you going to? I don't know. I'm here now. I'm on a journey, all right? These people are just traveling along and they're living out. They're out there. You'll see them. They're out there today. I don't know who they are, but it keeps changing. Certainly some fundamentalists are going to have you try to join a religion. I'm always interested how people gather around the Bible folks